Fury had a bad day at the office. I still think he won that fight. I think Anthony Joshua beats Ngannou.
Pro boxing fans here in Brighton for Eubank versus Schwarzkopf. With me, Adam Morallee, your charge. Lerone Richards is out, finally out. A lot of people have been looking forward to that. First of all, how are you? How's life?
Yeah, good. Great to be here for Lerone's debut with Wasserman, actually. It's been a long time coming. He's been out of the ring a long time. Lerone, he had a bit of a kind of keep busy fight in the middle of this year in Leicester, but it's great that he's back. I'm really happy.
Talk to me about what's gone wrong, first of all. We know that he was supposed to be fighting Zach Chelly and all these boxer cards going on, and then it sort of died out and nothing happened, and now we're in, end of 2023. Finally, he's got a fight that's, going to push him forward. But what's happened in this couple of years?
It's not just that he's got a fight, he's got a promoter now. He's got Wasserman behind him. He's going to fight now, hopefully fight early next year, and then he's on to big fights. I think the thing for Lerone is, I don't know for the boxing geeks out there, how many other boxers have had a long-term deal with Matchroom, Frank Warren, Sky, and Wasserman. I don't think there's many, and I think Lerone has just. I think he's one of the most talented, if not the most talented British boxers in the country, certainly at 168. I think he's someone that, let's be realistic, he's in the who wants him camp. Other people don't want to fight him. Stylistically, very difficult. And he hasn't revealed himself so far to be a big, exciting puncher. So it was always a challenge for Lerone to get fights. And then when we got him that Gongora fight in 2021 and he beat him convincingly, we really thought it'd be a big launch pad. Then there were a few, we got offered some fights the next year. Things didn't quite work out with Matchroom. No disrespect to them and nothing they did wrong. And then since then, it's been challenging, finding that right long-term promoter for Lerone. But we've now found them, and the sky's the limit for him at 168, at 175. He's now with Grant Smith, which is for me incredibly exciting. He went there earlier this year. We saw his performance in Leicester. Okay, that was against a quality journeyman, but we're going to see more and more of Lerone as we progress. And now the 175 scene's very interesting. Josh Buatsi, Anthony Yard, Dan Aziz. Lerone should be in that mix. And Lerone's a world level fighter. He's won the IBO world title at 168, but I don't see many people that can beat Lerone.
How quick do you want to get to that point? You talked about some of the top boys up there at 175 or even 168. How quick do you want him to push him to get to that point?
I think he's going to fight. He's obviously fighting Friday. He's going to fight early next year. Straight after that, he's straight in. He's going to have a degree of rust, right? The guy always keeps himself in shape, but he's going to have a degree of rust. But also, he'll then have had 3 fights with Grant Smith. And you start with a new trainer to really, move into that. But I think you'll see extra things from Lerone now that you see from Grant's fighters, sitting down in his punches a bit more power. And I think it could be a bit more exciting.
Let's talk about another one of your fighters, the big man, Joe Joyce. What's the latest with him? We see him posting on Instagram, having a bit of a good time, just a bit away from boxing.
Joe's had a bit of time off after the Zhang loss. Went to Australia, America, but he's now coming back into camp, looking to get him out early next year, probably February. There was talk, I did speak to the Warrens about him coming back on the Fury Usyk undercard end of this year, but I don't know for certain, but my understanding is that's not happening. So we'll get Joe out early next year, get him a win, and then I think he's right again. He's right in the mix again. The thing is, I was speaking to someone the other day. They were telling me, who's Zhang going to fight next? I say it's going to be difficult because Zhang's now in the Who Wants Him club. No one wants to take Zhang on, and all those people, Zhang as the WBO interim, all those people are going to be, waiting for the results of Fury Usyk, which, let's face it, is probably going to be a sequel. They're going to fight in February, probably fight again, maybe September. So there could be a lot of inactivity there. Whereas with Joe Joyce, probably in the last month alone, have had 3-4 offers for Joe because people now think he's beatable. So, and he's a name, he's a scalp. So people want to fight Joe Joyce now. So I think 2024 is going to be exciting for him.
Can you give us any names for the next one? I assume it's not going to be anyone in the top 10, but like somebody that you can sort of get the ring rust off and probably push on.
Absolutely. It's going to be a decent opponent. But you never want to look past those things. But someone Joe should be a different level to, and then you move on and you see who's in the mix right now. People are talking about Francis Ngannou. Okay, well, That is an interesting fight. Of course, it's an interesting fight. I mean, I think when you're Francis Ngannou and you fought once and you fought Fury for big money, you're probably going to want to continue your career in Saudi. You probably don't want your next fight to be, I don't know, at York Hall over 10 rounds. It's going to be on big money. And Joe Joyce is a definite candidate for that fight. I know a lot of people are calling him out. Chisora's calling him out. They're talking about Fury rematch. I don't think that will happen. But yeah, someone like Ngannou, I think we're looking at, the Warrens have got an incredible stable of heavyweights. We're looking at, I'd be interested in the Dubois rematch. Joe wants to win a world title. Anyone in the number 1 slot, we'd look at that. And, ultimately, down the line, maybe an AJ fight he'd be looking at. But really, what does Joe want to do? He wants to be financially secure, of course, but he wants to win a world title. He went the hard way to win it. He got beat by Zhang, took the L twice. And so we've got to find another way to get there. And I think there are enough quality British heavyweights out there to make the fights. I mean, one thing Joe Joyce has always done is take the fights on. He's been criticised for it. Why did you take that Zhang fight? Well, he took that Zhang fight, otherwise he'd be still sat on the sidelines now and won't have fought twice this year. Inactivity's killer for a heavyweight. He still wants the big fights, and we'll get him back out in February, and after that, I really hope we get him some big fights.
There's 2 names you mentioned there, AJ and Ngannou. A lot of talk, and Eddie sort of said a few things with the media that, that could be a possible fight for AJ coming up. If that fight was to happen, I don't know, what do you reckon happens in that fight?
Look, Joe sparred Ngannou, and Guido Vianello, one of our heavyweights, has sparred Ngannou. He's an incredibly strong guy, and I think you see he's an incredible fighter, and people just massively underestimated him. We know his quality in the gym. He's a novice, but in reality, Fury had a bad day at the office. I still think he won that fight. I think Anthony Joshua beats Ngannou. I think he's just too skilled, too good. Olympic gold medalist. Got to give respect to what AJ's done. I think Joe Joyce beats Ngannou. I think the top lads beat Ngannou. But they're interesting, exciting fights. Ngannou's brought himself onto the scene, right on the scene, by that Fury performance.
Yeah, it is a good point. Obviously, a lot of people on social media, I think, are riding that wave with Ngannou right now, and maybe a little bit of disrespect to the top 5 heavyweights, where they're saying, listen, Ngannou might beat him, when we've seen what they've done for the last 7-8 years in the heavyweight game. But let's talk about the big one, undisputed clash. It seems like it might happen in February now. The dates, I think, either the 10th or the 17th is what we're reading online. Fury versus Usyk. I've spoken to you about this before. Has anything changed since that Ngannou performance from Fury?
I think both Fury and Usyk are coming off performances which aren't their best performances. Obviously, Usyk beat Dubois, but in another night, should have probably lost that, whether it was below the belt, whatever, but it's not a great performance. I think people saw that Usyk performance and thought it was beatable, thought he's weak to the body, so not a great performance from Usyk. Fury's coming off probably his worst performance for a long time. Maybe he underestimated Ngannou, maybe he couldn't get up for that fight. I think those 2 performances will probably inspire the boxers individually to further camps and to push on further. Are they both declining? I don't know. They're definitely the top 2 heavyweights in the world for me, without a doubt. I don't think it changes the result. Actually, I still think Fury wins.
Cool. Adam, always a pleasure talking to yourself. Always good seeing you. And no doubt I'll speak to you soon after this fight, once Lauren fights on Friday. Thank you very much.